We'll give them a few more minutes and then get started with the webinar. Thank you. Okay, hello everyone. Looks like our panelists are all online and quite a few attendees are also here. So why don't we get started with this webinar for today? So welcome to this webinar on myths and facts about diabetes. My name is Karthik Sarvade. I am the Chief Business Officer of Livort Life. Most of you would have heard of Livort Life already. In brief, what we do is we work with people who have various lifestyle conditions like diabetes, hypertension, PCOS, cardiovascular diseases, and so on. And we provide them with a safe, natural, and convenient way to reverse these lifestyle conditions. Okay? So we'll talk more about what we do towards the end of the program. But for now, I hope it'll be a fun-filled hour. What we're going to do in this webinar is we're going to look at several statements that are facts or could be myths that are masquerading as facts. And if we are on an endeavor to figure out which is which, right? So let me quickly give an introduction to our panelists. So we have three resident experts from Livort Life who are going to talk about all of these statements that I'm going to that we're going to see and give their opinion. But what is more, you as the audience will get an opportunity to put in your vote against whatever opinions you think are true, and test your mettle against what our panelists say. Right? So let me start with Vivek. Vivek, do you want to give a wave to the audience? So Vivek is our founder and CEO of Livort Life. He's been an entrepreneur before. Previously, he had founded a company called Fintelix, a startup called Fintelix, which was one of the most successful ones based out of Bangalore. Went on to raise money from several successful venture capital funds and also managed to get an exit by selling the company to a NASDAQ listed company in the US, right? So, but while this entrepreneurial journey was successful, along the way, Vivek picked up diabetes, and he was at a loss to understand why it is impacting him the way it did. And he took the opportunity to sort of dig in deep, understand the physiology and the underlying causes behind why diabetes occurs, and why is it that we don't seem to be able to get a handle on diabetes. And while he was trying to solve it for himself, he also realized that there are several millions of diabetes around the world who need similar solutions. And then that's when he started to, he founded Live Life to try and come up with a commercial model that would work for us as a startup and for the larger diabetic community. Okay. Next, I'd like to introduce Monica Manchanda. Monica is our CCO, that is a Chief Culinary Officer. She handles nutritional science. She handles our food and menu planning and execution of our kitchen. Right. She also does a bunch of things on marketing, but she's quite a versatile personality that way. She used to be a techie who decided at a later point in time to capitalize on her foodie instincts and change her line. And I'm sure a lot of us would say that she did very, very well. She did several courses in science and cooking from Harvard University, and she's quite a popular personality in the digital world. She's created a platform to sort of let the larger world know about her knowledge and love for food. She's sort of heading the fight at Live Life to make sure that whatever food we provide, whatever nutrition we provide to our clients, they are tasty, and at the same time they're curative and therapeutic. That's Monica for you. Next, I'd like to introduce Sanjay Pujari, who leads our physical activity practice. Sanjay is a physiotherapist, and he has 11 years of experience practicing physiotherapy. He specializes in sports injuries, musculoskeletal sports injuries is what are his specialty. So while at Live Life, he had a very unique challenge. We have people coming into Live Life who are not typically the most physically active ones, and he had to sort of help us put together a program that would be that would sort of cater to a very wide wide range of capabilities. There would be people who would actually have physical reasons why they cannot do even basic exercises, all the way through to people who've been occasionally going to the gym. So he that's been Sanjay's contribution to Live Life. He oversees the program which encompasses exercise, yoga, and meditation, which is all of the physical activities that we ask our clients to do. So that's about our panelists. Let me tell you a little bit about the format of this event. So we're going to take up a series of statements. Like I said, these statements could be facts or they could be myths, and we'll find out what is what. So as each statement gets picked up, you will see that a poll pops up on your screen. Below each of these statements, there are 3 opinions, right? So what I want you to do is to select the opinion that you agree with most closely, right? So whichever of these opinions you think is closest to the truth, please go ahead and click on that. And I'll give about 30 seconds per statement for you folks to select your choice. And then once it is closed, we all get to see how the audience has voted. And we'll also sort of hand over to the relevant panelist to speak about the statement and whether science actually shows that the statement is true or is it a myth. Right? That is how this format will go. Okay. All right. So to get started, folks, what we'd like to do is, I think it's a very interesting first statement that we picked up, which is to do with food and exercise, right? Meaning we have this common conception that it's okay to eat whatever as long as you're sort of going ahead and leading a good physically active life and doing a fair bit of exercise, right? So here is the here is the poll. I'm going to launch polling. There we go. I think the poll should have popped up in front of you. The statement says, as long as we exercise, we can eat as much of our favorite foods as we wish. And like I said, there are 3 opinions. Why don't you guys go ahead and select whatever you think comes closest to the truth.
I think both me and Sanjay are really looking forward to the answer of this.
I see voting is going on with great gusto, and a good number of people are voting ferociously. Few more seconds. All right. Anybody else in the queue? Please go ahead. Put in your final votes. All right. I think the results, I'm smiling because I'm seeing the results live as people are voting. And I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion. Okay, let me close the poll here and share the results with you folks. Okay, here we go. Okay, I suppose you are able to see, Monica, can someone confirm that you're able to see the results?
Yes, we can see the results.
Great. So, yeah, Monica, why don't you go ahead and tell us if the audience is right. The audience seems to think that option 1 is correct. We just need to keep track of calories, calorie in and calorie out. As long as the balance, we are good.
And I wish it was true. I sincerely wish it was true. All of our lives would be far more simpler if it was as straightforward as just restricting, eating whatever you want to, and then going and running for an hour. So I think I would take this answer of this question in 2 parts, and maybe one part Sanjay would like to also jump in. One is the exercise bit and the food relation bit. It is not as simple as just eating and then burning it off and saying, okay, we are done with it. I would eat cakes and cakes and then go for a run and assume that the cake that you have just eaten is going to get burned off because you ran for 1 hour is not how it works. It's not as straightforward math that 1 + 1 is always equal to 2. The other part of an interesting part of the statement also is a little bit of homemade food. And we do see that some people have kind of said that we can eat as much as we want of simple homemade food and it will not be a problem. I think we all have grown up listening to the fact, and especially as Indians, we strongly believe in the fact that homemade food can never be bad for us. जो माँ ने प्यार से बनाया है वो खाना हमारे लिए अच्छा ही है, right? I mean, that is something that we are it's imbibed in us. And to an extent, it's true. But it's also important on what we eat, whether it is to balance exercise, whether it is homemade versus outside made, as much as it is important of how much we eat and where we eat. A side meal of a salad and a nice protein eaten anywhere, whether it is cooked with clean ingredients in a restaurant or cooked with clean ingredients at home, is probably far better than a deep fried plate of bhaji that we hot fried up at home and served because Bangalore weather asked for it. So that's my short answer on it. And I think we need to think about what we are eating more than where we are eating and how we are eating.
Okay. So round 1 goes to the panelists. Come on, audience, do better in the next one. Okay. This one is also a very interesting question. The relationship between genetics and diabetes, right? So I think a lot of us have this notion that parents are diabetics, or maybe our grandparents were diabetics too, or maybe our aunts, uncles are diabetics. Then it's only a matter of time. We will be diabetic. But you can fight it, but you can't beat it, right? So let's see what's that all about. Okay, here's the poll. The statement says if our parents/grandparents had diabetes, we would inevitably get it. And there are 3 opinions here. Please go ahead and select what you think is right. Okay, looks like the audience is getting into the swing of things. We are more than 50% in terms of votes cast. Racing towards close to 100%. Go ahead. Come on, guys. Who has not voted? Go ahead. Few seconds. All right, here we go. Let me go ahead and close the poll. Okay. All right, here we go. This is interesting. Okay. So let me go ahead and put this question to Vivek. Vivek, here's what the audience is saying. I'm guessing you're able to see the results now. If you are, do you agree with the audience? What do you think?
So I think, again, not a straightforward, but I think most of the audience have got it right. But I think there is
Yes.
almost 50% that also has not got it right. Right. And obviously, as we go down this path, when we think about diabetes, when we think about hypertension, when we think about cardiovascular risk, any form that you fell, is there any family history, etc., etc. And obviously, if there is family history of a particular ailment, the belief that, that's the cards I've been dealt, and more likely than not, I will end up down a similar path. There is some truth to it, but not the blame is not all on the genes, right? And I'd like to kind of distinguish between there being family history and that increasing your chances as a separate from there being a genetic predisposition to having one of these lifestyle conditions. And the reason I like to do that was, you know a lot of the way we live our life is based on the way we were brought up. So, our parents, our uncles, our aunts, the entire ecosystem. So the food that I eat, the, exercise regimen I may follow, my sleep patterns, the way I fast, the way I feast, all of these are things that are more cultural and the way one has been brought up and adopted, etc. So the way I celebrate my festivals, way I celebrate a good thing, a bad thing, it's all kind of comes through, our chain of command, our pyramid, if you will, our across generations. Unfortunately, those choices play a lot more role, right? A bigger role. So while, those choices are what we grew up with, those choices are what we pass on to our kids and so on and so forth. So I think those are very important. However, it's not genetic, right? There may be a genetic predisposition to a particular kind of let's say, ailment, if you will, but you can easily make choices such that that gene doesn't get expressed, right? So just because you have a genetic predisposition doesn't mean it's preordained and you have no choice. All it means is you need to take a little extra precautions or make a little different choices to ensure that while you may have a greater genetic, leaning, how do you ensure you mitigate that and continue to stay healthy, right? But I think, especially talking about diabetes and some of the lifestyle conditions, it's less about genetics and more about the same practices that they followed, but not in the same way, in the same spirit. Because in the modern day, we don't exactly do the same way that they were doing, right? And I think the devil is in the detail. These choices that we make, which come from parents to children and parents to children, causes are unfortunately causing us a lot more harm, given that the way the choices we make, our environment has changed, in terms of processed food, in terms of things available on a shelf, in a bottle, etc., in terms of chemical contamination of produce. There's a bunch of factors. But in very simple terms, I would go with 55% of the audience, which said that while genes do play a role, it is the choices that we make that matter. We can't blame it entirely on genetics. You have a choice, you make the right choices. Though you may have a genetic, chance being high, it will not come to you. And at the same time, I don't know what the last choice was, but that won't be the case. I think it all comes down to the quality of the choices we make, and it's less about the genes. Yeah, so it has nothing to do, is in a way right. But it does, because we learn from them. We do what they were doing. And we do that in the modern era with changes that have happened in the environment, and that is causing the harm, not the genes.
Okay, so Vivek gave a rather long answer, but all I heard from it was the audience was right. So one question to the panelists, one question to the audience. Okay. All right. Looks like a few more people have joined in on the audience side. Hopefully, with a greater strength, the audience will make a stronger comeback against the panelists. All right. Okay. So question 3. Now this is about medicines, right? Now, normally, we take medicines because they cure things, right? We get a stomach bug or a stomach infection. We go to the doctor. The doctor gives us medicines that cure it, right? Is the same thing true for diabetes? Those of us diabetics who take medicines, is diabetes curing us? Is the next statement. So I'm going to launch polling. Yeah. All right. Here we go. So go ahead and read the statements and the options and see which of them you agree with the most. Okay, go ahead and click. You have 30 seconds. Okay, votes are coming in fast and furious. Almost half the people have voted. The other half, buck up.
Fastest finger.
Fastest finger, yes.
But only Karthik is able to see it live. I'm feeling a little jealous there.
Yeah, it's very interesting how the trends are changing. It's like watching, on an election night, you're watching what's happening, which party is going up and not. It's kind of like that. I'm really enjoying this. Okay, I'm going to be closing polling in next 5 seconds. Anybody, any last minute votes, please go ahead and put it in. Okay, here we go. Let me end polling. Aha. This is going to be interesting. So I am going to put this question to Vivek once again. Vivek, what do you think? Do you think the audience got it right?
Karthik?
Oh, sorry. Here we go. All right, here we go. So if you guys are able to see the results. Well, let me tell you that the trends overtook, the option C overtook at the last minute. For a long time, option B was giving a strong fight. But let's see what our expert panelist Vivek has to say about the results.
First thing I would say, the audience, I think, is leaning towards the right direction. And again, I think they've got this one right. All right. Clearly, unlike, let's say, any kind of infection or disease, we take medicines, we cure ourselves, we stop taking medicines. However, the people in the second bucket, not necessarily true, right? They don't cure. Yes, they don't cure. And many of us who are diabetic or who know other diabetics, we know that once the regimen of medicine starts, and not just for diabetes, it could be for cardiovascular risk and cholesterol imbalances or hypertension and blood pressure medicine, etc. Right? We start, and that's a newly acquired friend that stays with us till the end, right? And over time, it's only that the dosage keeps changing, and there's a reason for that. But I wish, if not the first, ideally, I wish it was the first, right? Which is it cures, but we know that it doesn't. I wish it was the second, which is, hey, it doesn't cure, but it helps me manage and it does me no harm, right? And it provides me something that my body is not able to do on its own. And just by having the medicine, I'm good. Unfortunately, that's also not true, right? The reality is that the bulk of the medicines that we take, they help with the symptom, but actually make the underlying problem worse. Now, that's the reason one needs to worry. Because if it was either one or two, there's no reason to worry. You pop your pill and get on and, either cure it or be in peace. Because, many of us who've been on this journey, you will also realize that your dosage only increases over time typically. Like you start with X, in a couple of years, doctor says, hey, you're not doing the right things. It's not in control. I'll have to increase the dose. Fast forward another 18 months, 24 months, the same thing happens. And eventually, the medicine load and dose and the strength keeps increasing. And at some point in time, we'll say oral medication can't do it. I'll need to start injecting stuff, insulin, etc. in that, again, you'll start with X units, then it becomes 20, then it becomes 30, then it becomes 40. What it means, if you apply your mind, is that the underlying condition is getting worse while you're managing the symptom. The symptom may be more glucose in your blood, and that's not good for the human body. Obviously, by taking medicine, that more glucose comes down. But the underlying problem, why you have more glucose, is actually getting worse, which is why the glucose keeps increasing, and to that extent, your medication also keeps increasing. So I would urge you, and I don't know if you'll cover this, you need to address it at the root cause. Medicines do not solve the root cause. They manage the symptom, don't cure it, and in a way they harm you. So if you're on medicine, if you can find ways to get out of medicine and make your body work better, I would urge you to do that. Obviously, that's something that we work with people at Live Life to help and do. But points, Karthik, I think go to the audience in terms of the majority. So
Yes, that's right. I think the audience is making a very strong comeback. So by my count, it's audience 2, panelists 1. Okay, looks like the audience is really smart.
Our moderator is also cheating by giving hints, yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I think the audience has figured out that the most unlikely answers are likely to be correct. So looks like that's what they've been banking on. But whatever it is, well, whoever wins, Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar. Okay. Next question, also to do with physical activity / exercise, right? So here it goes. So can physical activity actually cure things, or is it something that can maybe help prevent diabetes, but does it actually have a curative role? What do you guys think? Go ahead. Okay, first of the votes coming in. Halfway through.
I'm waiting for the answers now. I want to see what everyone thinks about physical activity with respect to diabetes.
Sanjay's domain.
I think I have my broadest smile for this for the responses for this question. Okay, we're almost there. 75% of the people have voted. The last few tailenders, go ahead, get your votes in. Few more seconds. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results. Okay, so here it goes. So most people think that physical activity can help manage diabetes better and prevent it from becoming worse. And I think only 1% thinks physical activity can actually help cure. 2 people think physical activity can prevent diabetes from setting in, but only if it is intense. Sanjay, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the first and second are not 100% right. So of course I want to go with the third one. So yes, with respect to just like how Vivek was telling, if we have too much of sugar in our blood, then we need to pop a pill. In the similar way, when you exercise, you will be able to flush that sugar levels out of your blood. Okay, because any physical activity will help in burning the glucose that we have. So of course, yes, the physical activity will help in managing diabetes, and also it helps in preventing. If you are physically active, provided that you eat the right nutrition, then you can prevent it. And physical activity can actually help cure diabetes also, but there is a very big star mark which we at Outlife are doing. It's like physical activity should be coupled with right amount of nutrition. If the nutrition is not good, like how much ever you do, your body won't recover from whatever you have done. And let's say you ate an ice cream and you ran for 1 mile, your 1 mile, though you burned whatever is there in your body, but the ice cream that you ate is doing you more harm. So if you're looking at curing the diabetes, me being a fitness expert, I would still say just physical activity is not enough, and it requires physical activity, nutrition, stress management. So everything together.
yeah, and I think to Sanjay's point, rare, but I think we've seen enough clients that come to us who are marathon runners, right? Whose levels of fitness is super high.
Yeah.
But obviously their state of health is not, right? And so fitness plays a super critical role, like Sanjay was saying. But it's a balance of multiple things, I believe.
Definitely.
Right? And Just because you're fit doesn't mean you're healthy. Just because you're healthy doesn't mean you're fit.
Yeah.
Ideally, your goal should be to be both fit and healthy.
There is a recovery point also. After being physically active, your body needs to recover, and for it to recover, you need good food.
Yep.
Yeah, that's inevitable. It's like a feedback loop. You eat good, you exercise, you're healthy. You eat good, you don't exercise, you will still not be healthy. So, and yeah, if you're doing very good levels of physical activity and not eating, it doesn't make. I mean, it won't help you.
Right. Yeah, and thanks, Sanjay. And like Sanjay said, it's food, yes, nutrition, yes, but along with that, physical activity also plays a key role. And
Physical activity's key role is physical activity's key role will be in flushing out the glucose that we have in the body.
Absolutely. So it definitely aids in the curing process. Is what his point is, and I think we put together a very interesting mix of, like I said, exercise, yoga, and meditation together. So folks in the audience, feel free to check that out. We in fact offer a free trial for that as well. So you should take the opportunity to check it out. Okay, so where do we stand? 3-1 by my count. Okay, so let's go. Was it somebody booing the audience? No. Okay. All right.
So I'm happy with the.
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay. All right. So the audience is gathering steam, both in terms of number of people in the audience, as well as in terms of the score over the panelists. So let's take the next one. This is, I think, one of the most interesting questions in this in this panel. It's about what is a good diabetic diet, right? So everyone knows that we got to eliminate sugar, right? But apart from that, we also know that we have to do things beyond it, right? We got to, obviously, white rice is a big villain. Everybody knows that. And looks like we got to substitute with better alternatives. So the question is, do brown rice, wheats, oats, ragi, millets, all of these things, do they actually make a difference? All right. We are coming up on 50% of the votes cast. Very rapidly rising to 75% of votes cast. Few more seconds. Anybody else wants to get their votes in? Go ahead. It's your chance. Few more seconds. All right. Let me go ahead and close it. This is going to be interesting. Here we go. Okay. Why don't I go ahead and put this one to Monica? What do you think, Monica?
Okay, so I'm going to step back, and this is a very interesting answer. If I look at the percentages given to all of the options, 50% of them believe that some of the alternatives are good, but not all of them. And I wish, some of the times I wish webinars were two ways, so I could ask the audience that which one of these options do you think is better than the others. But having said that, very interesting. I think one of the small key points I want to make before we jump into the real answer of this is that all carbohydrate that we eat, all grains that we eat, are converted to glucose and sugar before our body digests them. And if you look at that and then think about this answer, we will probably automatically come to a conclusion that all of us are bad for us diabetics. Because while wheat and ragi and millets have a smaller percentage of carbs when compared to white rice and brown rice, but the difference in the smaller percentage is very, very little. So, for example, white rice contains 87 grams of carbs per 100 grams of white rice, 87% of carbs per 100 grams of white rice. Brown rice contains 84% of carbs per 100 grams. So the difference is just 3% between white rice and brown rice. If I go down the rest, wheat contains 75% carbs. So we're not reducing the carb by 50% or 60%. We're just reducing the carb by 3%, 4%, and at best of 10. Even things like millets, the little millet and which is bajra, etc., have carb percentage of around 70 to 75%. And ragi actually surprisingly stands at 83%. and oats is again at 75%. So I mean, it is just like we used to say, "Andho mein kana raja." Yes, ragi, probably oat. This is better than that. But in nutshell, all of them need to be avoided by people with diabetic and other lifestyle diseases. So I think audiences kind of lose this round.
Oh no, looks like this question bamboozled the audience.
Yes.
So the panelists make a comeback. It's 2 to 3, 2 on the panelist side, 3 on the audience side. Audience, come on, buck up. Maybe you should open another browser window with pointed to Google for the next one. Okay. All right. Let's see what is next. This is interesting. Okay. So I'm assuming a lot of you people in the audience are diabetics. And one common advice that's given to diabetics is that we need to eat multiple small meals during the day. Don't eat one large meal. Break it up into smaller meals. Have 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, 2 for snacks, 2 dinners, kind of a thing. Okay. So this question is all about that. Go ahead and take a quick look and respond. Okay, here we go. I actually don't think Google would have helped in this question. Okay.
So your hints to audience is not going to work right now.
No, this is getting really interesting. 75% people have voted in, and we've seen a surprising reversal in fortunes of some of the options. Okay, last few seconds. Anybody else wants to get their votes in? Go ahead, put it in. Yeah, looks like some more people are considering the options, weighing the options. I see people are continuing to vote. Okay, I'm going to start closing the poll now. Here we go. Okay, this has honestly been quite interesting. Monica, let's see what you have to say about this.
This is very, very interesting. So audience, before I jump into the explanation, audience is close. 42% of the audience have picked the right answer here. We should eat 2 big meals in the day and nothing in between. But apart from that 45%, the larger chunk still believes that we should snack and we should eat multiple meals a day. And so let's just quickly go over option by option. First of the option is eating multiple meals keeps the blood glucose level under control. While it might be true temporarily, while you are eating, your sugars might not rise too much. In the longer run, eating multiple times a day every eating event is triggering insulin reaction in your body. And in the longer run, your insulin sensitivity and insulin resistance is getting going for a toss. In the longer run, it is only making things worse for you if you are a diabetic and not really improving anything. It might look like a temporary solution for a while, but it is not. So what on the looking at that and looking at the second option, which says no, eat 2 big meals a day, does is reduces the number of time the large insulin reaction happens, and that keeps your larger function of insulin in check and brings it back to where it was. In fact, not just 2 meals, we also recommend intermittent fasting, and we probably have a webinar for that coming up soon, where you should come and listen in. Vivek will probably take you, explain the whole science behind intermittent fasting and talk about how to do it well. And I strongly recommend you guys attend this, is what we should do. And the last point, where we eat 2 meals, multiple stall meals, is as bad as eating multiple 5 or 6 meals a day. It does not make a difference on how much you eat. Just eating carbs makes a difference.
Yes, and what Monica said is really important. Please go ahead and learn more about intermittent fasting.
One thing I'd like to say on top of that is, see, many times when we get the advice that eat multiple times through the day, it's not because it's the right thing for you, but it's the right thing that is feeding your medication. Because otherwise, your medicine may cause, side effects which are problematic, right? To ensure that doesn't happen, there's always an urge to So when you are told to eat multiple small portions through the day, and if you're a diabetic and if you're on medication, it's actually feeding your medicine and not
feeding you
doing the right thing for the
for you.
body.
Yeah.
And for the body over time, like Monica said, I think it doesn't help. The fewer times you eat, the fewer insulin events actually help.
Right. Okay. And I don't know if the audience is Google or not. All we know is that it's audience 4, panelist 2, the score as it stands.
Hey, this question also we won, yeah.
Where did you win? Audience won, no?
Oh,
50%.
50% only.
50%?
45% audience got right, yeah.
Judges ruling audience. Okay.
Okay, sir. Follow
All
you.
right. So before we go to the next question, I'd like to remind you that on Zoom, there is a Q&A functionality. If you guys have any further questions that you'd like to be addressed, please go ahead and use that to put it up. We'll discuss it towards the end of the webinar. Looks like there are a few comments as well. We'll take them up as we go along. Okay. Next question is on sleep. Right? Should we sleep more? Should we sleep less? When I was younger, my parents used to always tell me that, why are you sleeping so much? You won't have time to study. You won't have time to do other activities in life. Sleep less. When I turned entrepreneur, again, the wisdom that was given to me was, you know what? If you sleep, there's no way you're going to be successful in life. That's the background that I came from. So here's the poll. Go ahead and take a look and put in your votes. Okay. We have quickly raised to about 50% of votes cast. We'll wait for a little longer to let the remaining folks get their voices heard. Few more. Okay, last few seconds. All right, looks like we've stabilized. Let me go ahead and end the polling and share the results. Okay, Vivek, what do you have to say about this?
All I have to say is the audience pretty much has my trick. I think, obviously they're choosing the right one, and very happy to see that. For that, 27% that did not choose, just to talk a little through, sleep, not just about rest, right? There's a bigger, more important function that happens when we sleep, which is the maintenance of the body's cells, right? So when we use, it's like a city we use, and there's garbage and all of that. When the city sleeps is when all of that gets cleansed. And so that when we get it up in the morning, we have a brand new city which is clean. Same thing true with the human body. There's this process called autophagy, and which works very well and only when we sleep well, right? But that's not the only condition. Just so that you know, if you have a heavy meal and go to bed and sleep for 7, 8, 9 hours, it still won't help, because the first half of your sleep, your maintenance cannot happen because your body is still digesting and metabolizing what you've eaten, right? So it's very important to sleep the 7+ hours, sleep well, and also ensure that for around 3 hours before you go to bed, you don't eat anything, so that there is no digestion that's going on, and you maximize what's called growth hormone and autophagy when you go to bed. And there are weak cells, there are things in our brain called beta amyloid and tau protein. There are dead cells. All of them need to get recycled. Newer cell needs to be created, and that does not happen if we don't sleep well. And if we are digesting, even though we are sleeping, right? So getting good sleep important, ensuring you eat at least 3-4 hours before you go to bed important. If you're insulin resistant, unfortunately, even that won't help. And for most people with diabetes, not almost everybody will be insulin resistant. It's a little of a bigger problem, because when the insulin levels remain high, the brain believes that it's still metabolizing. and hence your maintenance program doesn't kind of get started, which is a problem. All right. So if you're a diabetic, you need to take extra care. Though you sleep well, though you eat 3 hours before, unless you take care of your insulin resistance, your maintenance is still not working well. Does two things: one, accelerates your aging, and two, it increases your susceptibility to disease. So we've got a diagnostic panel which measures, under the hood how things are. In addition to multiple, parameters that people do, looking at, insulin resistance and what is the extent of your insulin resistance. So that's something. If you go to our website, it's called a smart health and risk assessment, where we not only look at mileage and etc., but we look at different components within your engines, your cellular health, inflammation, insulin resistance, how you're doing. So maybe that's something to figure out. But if you're diabetic, there may not be a point. I can tell you that your insulin is not working well and you're severely insulin resistant.
Okay. So awesome performance by the audience so far. We are at 5:2. Now I got to say, buck up panelists. Okay. The next question. Let's see if this is tricky enough to bamboozle the audience. All right. So let me go ahead. I don't want to say anything about this. Let me just go ahead and launch the polling as it is. Right. This is all about carbohydrates being, should they be part of our meal? Right. And this is where Google should help.
Google will also mislead you.
Don't try
unless
to,
they go deep
don't
into
try to
Google,
confuse
put
the
a second
audience.
page,
Vivek.
third page.
Okay, first of the votes coming in. Take your time, think about it. I'm going to give a few more seconds of time, audience. Think about it, get it right. Okay, we are a little over 50% now. Go ahead. Okay, there's a neck-to-neck race between two options. Last few seconds, audience, go ahead. We are at 75% closed. Okay, I'm going to give 5 more seconds and then I'm going to close the poll. One of the options has just sneaked past the other one. Okay, here goes.
These live updates are interesting.
Here goes. This is interesting. Option 1 and option 3 were neck to neck, and then finally, here's where we are. Okay, so this is a question for Monica. Monica, go ahead, take a look, tell the audience what you think.
Okay, so I think we have won again. So in a nutshell, but the point is, the carbohydrate that our body needs for working, we get it without actually eating carbohydrates, in the sense that, without actually eating direct carbs from grains or millets or anything. Anything you eat has a certain small amount of carbohydrates. Whether even if you're eating palak or cucumber, it does have a bare minimum of carbohydrates. And the carbohydrates that you get from those 4 sources is enough for you to function. And that is all our body needs. A large dose of carbohydrates, or a sufficient dose of carbohydrate in terms of a carb component on the plate, is absolutely not necessary for your functioning. Our body does not need it. Our body is absolutely capable of functioning without it. And it absolutely does no harm to us. The second point where we're talking about especially harm to kidneys, the harm to kidneys happens when we overdo protein, not when we cut down carbs. And a good diet needs protein, but moderate amount of protein. And at Live Life, we have kind of come up with percentages that work very well. And so what you should eat is a very, very low carb diet. A diet which should be very low in carb, moderate in protein, and high in fat. And that carb is what will cure you, what will be good for you in the longer run.
All right, so looks like the panelists managed to bring some confusion in and bamboozle the audience on this one. Okay, so let's see what's going to happen next. Okay, this is a very simple question. So again, let me go ahead and launch it. This is about whether a fit person can be healthy or not. And while you guys are reading about it, I'm going to give you a little hint. Think about an ex-Indian cricket captain and see what I think about what happened to him recently.
Hey, cheating, Karthik.
And in some ways, we have already spoken about it a little.
I know.
Okay, looks like my hints are, I don't know if they're helping or not, because some neck and neck stuff is happening. Interesting. We are at 65% of votes cast. Come on, guys, 75% now. Go ahead. All right, last few seconds. Okay, I am going to be ending the poll now. Okay, here we go. Here are the results. Vivek, what do you have to say?
No, I think, I'd like Sanjay
My
to
hint
weigh in as
worked.
well. Your hint definitely worked. So I think, obviously, these are two related but independent states. One can be fit but not healthy. One can be healthy but not fit. And obviously,
Vivek, I would say that if we can just define the basic of that fitness, I think it
no.
will
So
be much
Sanjay, why don't
easier.
you? No. Why don't you go ahead?
So fitness doesn't actually mean, you look bulky, heavier, and you're quite muscular. Fitness means your capability to climb 5 stairs or 10 stairs, run for a mile or walk for 2 miles, or be able to do the stuff around your house. So let's talk about fitness with that respect, and don't think fitness of that aesthetic looks that you get on social media. So if we take that as a preamble, then we can continue the conversation. Yeah. Vivek?
It's frozen.
Yeah,
looks like Vivek is frozen.
Vivek
Yeah.
is frozen. Yeah.
Okay, while we wait for Vivek to come back, yeah, there
Vivek
he is.
is back.
He's back.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Vivek. What do you have to say about Sanjay's comment?
No. So I think, the point I wanted to make was fitness is obviously about us, our muscles working well, us having the agility, the flexibility, the strength to, go about doing our day-to-day stuff and maybe much more, right? And that's, if you're not able to carry on your usual functions because of structural issues, right? Be it muscular, be it musculoskeletal, etc. That's a impediment. So obviously, and many people are fit, right? But not all fit people are healthy, because if your other practices, right, are not good, let's say if the food that you're eating is not good, can plaque formation continue to happen within your body? Can insulin resistance continue to build up in your body? The answer is yes, right? And which is where, many people that I know that come up to me, and again, I'm at that age where some of these we think about, say that, Saurav Ganguly getting heart issue, right? The dancer Remo Fernandez, I think, I don't remember what the name of him having a heart
Remo
issue,
Fernandez, yeah.
right? And then there was your, SAP head who used to be a runner, right? Who ended up with some kind of a cardiac issue, right? And then there was a BMW head who was supposed to be super fit, who again, I think, passed away. I think when we look at people who are fit, we believe they're healthy. And to a large extent, they are. Let's not get this wrong. If you do things to stay fit, it is helping your state of health. But at the same time, if you've not got your nutrition right, and if there's an imbalance there, the insides of your body can continue to not work well and take you down a path which is away from health, while you still are seemingly fit, right? So think of it separately. You should take steps to stay fit. You should take independent steps to stay healthy, and both are important. One doesn't necessarily guarantee the other. And if you're healthy but not fit, you'll still have problems, right? You will not be able to go about, and your chances of your healthiness going away is higher if your level of fitness is low. Right?
All right. Thank you, Vivek. Well, you guys spoke so long that I forgot what the score was. I think we are 6-3, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, let me go to the next question. Well, it's raining quite heavily here. I don't know how it is where you folks are. It's perfect weather for pakoras, but both Vivek and Monica will say, no, that's not something that we should
Even
be.
I'll say no to it.
Okay, you're okay. Spoil sports, all of you. Maybe you guys should tell us what we should do as an alternative. But after this question. Okay. Next question. Yoga. It's about yoga and what it does for diabetics. I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. Simple enough. Looks like the audience has gotten into its swing. 40% votes cast. All right, I'm going to give 5 more seconds. We are actually running out of time, so we need to be really quick here, audience. Okay, let me go ahead and end polling right now. Sanjay,
Yeah.
what do you have to say about yoga being good for diabetics?
Yes, the audience have chosen the right answer. It looks like they know everything about diabetics and exercise and yoga, but not much about nutrition clearly. Yeah, with respect to the poll, yes, yoga practices like especially mindful, like doing pranayama, meditation, and along with it, there are so many asanas which will help in stimulating your pancreas and several other organs in the body. And also, it can also help in stimulating your endocrine system. So, yes, definitely, yoga has a very important role when it comes to diabetes. So, and also like if you look at other aspects like balance gets improved, the muscle strength gets improved, and a whole bunch of things happen when you see yoga. But in general, like if you take the bigger picture, yoga is also a physical activity. So more or less, they all fall under the same umbrella.
That's right. That's right. Okay, we are running seriously short of time, so I am going to go to the next question, which I think is going to be the last for this round. Okay, now this is about understanding what happens inside our body when we have diabetes, right? Specifically, what's the deal with insulin, right? So we all know that advanced diabetics they inject insulin. So let's see what your understanding is and whether that's correct. Okay, this is going to be the last question of the day, folks. So go ahead. Okay. We are at 35%. And all 3 options are lighting up. One of them has taken the lead. Okay, we are at 65% voting. Last few seconds, any last struggling votes? Go ahead. Okay, I'm going to close this poll and ask Vivek to tell us what does he think.
Okay, interesting mix. I think first thing to know is obviously there's a safe option, which it depends on the kind of diabetes we have, right? Which has some weight to it. But in the context of type 2 diabetes, I think the panel has got it wrong. But in general, it does depend on the type of diabetes. For example, if you take a look at type 1 diabetes, there's think of it more like a manufacturing defect. Think of it as where the body is unable to produce insulin, right? That is type 1 diabetes for you. Type 2 diabetes is the exact opposite. In a way, our body produces more and more and more insulin, right? And in fact, it maxes out on the amount of insulin it can produce, but the effectiveness of that insulin is going lower and lower and lower. And you've heard us mention insulin resistance. That's what it means. To get the same job done, our body needs more and more insulin. So, in terms of type 2 diabetes, I think the second answer is probably right. But the first answer is clearly wrong because, when people are injecting insulin, if they're a type 2 diabetic, it is more because in whatever their body is able to produce is not working and it needs more to be added. right? It's maximizing what it can produce, and you need more protein is when you inject for type 2 diabetes. And so, it's not an insulin production problem, it's an insulin overproduction problem with lower productivity. And I think the goal to solve for diabetes is, can we make our insulin work better without needing exogenous or medicine-induced insulin? Can the sensitivity of our insulin increase? And if you do that, our diabetes goes away. So if you want to solve for the root cause, that's what one would do.
Okay, so we are at the end of our statements and responses. I don't quite know what the exact score is, but I think the audience thumpingly won. So audience, take a bow, panelists applaud. Okay, so we have a few questions here which the audience has put. We're going to take a few minutes. I know we are close to ending time, but we're going to take a few quick minutes to answer some of the questions that you guys have put in. And if you have, if anybody else in the audience has anything else to ask, please go ahead and use the Q&A module to put that in. Okay, first question is, well, it's anonymous. It says, can you speak about the role of multiple meals or carbs in inflammation? Right, Vivek, you want to take this one? What is the role of multiple meals and carbohydrates in inflammation?
Yeah, so I think I would just say that two things: multiple meals and carbs. Let's separate the two, right? In general, if you have glucose toxicity, that can only come if you have more carbs. If you have insulin resistance, that can only come when you have more carbohydrates. If you don't have the right, I would say, vitamins and minerals that primarily comes from, let's say, vegetables and fruits. Now, all of these are things that will drive up inflammation, right? So multiple meals, I'm not as sure has a direct correlation. More than the multiple meals, indirectly, obviously, it harms, because multiple meals, the chances of becoming insulin resistant are higher, and that is a pathway to inflammation. But carbs, for sure, there is what's called hyperglycemia. There is hyperinsulinemia, which is more insulin than you need, more glucose than you need, leading to insulin resistance, and that clearly increases inflammation. So that's what I would say.
Okay, thanks, Vivek. Next question from Murli. He has a question about diets. I think this is something for Monica to take up. What about paleo diets and keto diets that have more proteins? Will they impact the kidneys? This is a question. Monica, you want to take a shot?
Yeah, I will take a shot. So actually, in the purest forms, neither keto nor paleo is very high on protein. It is the bastardized versions, popular version of the diet that ask you to eat a lot of protein. In the pure keto version, keto is 75% carbs, 75% fats, 5% carbs, and 20% protein. Even keto limits the protein intake at 20% and not higher than that. Paleo is slightly higher. Paleo's protein intake is at 30%, 40% fats, and 30% carbs. But in both these diets, the protein intake does not reach above 30%. And 20% protein is a healthy protein. It's not very, very high. 30 is probably slightly higher than what we are talking about, but it's still not high enough to harm your kidneys. What, however, happens when you follow these diets without proper guidance and instructions is when you're going low on carb, it is very, very easy to go high on protein to fill yourself. Taking more fat is not as easy as we would imagine it to be. And we end up taking more protein than we should or the diet recommends. And that is what leads to a problem like this, not the diet itself.
And I mean, just a quick add-on, I think many of these, we seem to focus a lot more on macronutrients and percentages.
Right.
I would also say that, hey, it's not just about the macros. The vitamins and minerals play a very critical role in terms of good health. So, your paleo not as much. Your keto, I mean, many of these are your CPF percentages, right? How much of carb, how much of protein, how much of fat. But please, please, please don't ignore, the micronutrition. all right, and that is very important. And every mechanism the way energy gets produced needs a certain kind of micronutrients, and that you don't get, with the macros. You have to get the right, vegetables and greens and stuff like that in, and without that, you will not be able to get the right micronutrition in.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Monica, and thank you, Vivek. So I'm going to combine two questions here. There's one question from Anonymous who says, how can people follow the diet you prescribe if their lipid profile may not be perfect? Which is, for example, their LDL might be high. And another question that says, eating fats, does it lead to heart diseases? This is also by another anonymous poster. Vivek, you want to take both of these things?
And I'll try to take it quickly, being cognizant of time. And I think in general, I'd like to say, I see that the questions are going deeper and deeper. And Karthik, obviously, we are happy to answer to the extent you want us to. But I would say everybody in the audience, hopefully saw value. But please do reach out to us if you want any of these specific things to help you. Right? I think we are available to help you making the right decision and other solutions. Right. So that's something I'd like to leave as a preamble, because I don't know if you'll be able to. And Karthik, obviously up to you how many. We are happy to answer as many questions. But two things. I think eating fats may lead to heart disease. Now, I think that's a whole another subject for a one
webinar.
hour or maybe a webinar on its own.
Yeah, it's a full webinar concept.
But simplistically, I think, all fats have been, what should I say, demonized. Not true. Right? Fat is essential, right? Carbs are not essential. You don't eat carb, nothing happens to you. But fat is something we have to consume. Every cell, your brain, all of that needs the right fat to come in. So one, as long as your fat is right, you don't have a problem, right? It will not lead to heart disease. Is point one. And you can reach out what is right, what is not right, and you'll be surprised at the advice you're getting and what the reality is. Second is, more than LDL, I think one needs to worry about one ratio called triglyceride to HDL, and that is more indicative of heart risk. So lipid profile, your triglycerides come down drastically to, higher carb, higher triglycerides, higher VLDL, right? Lower HDL. You reduce carb, your triglycerides come down, your HDL kind of goes up, but HDL again is in Sanjay's domain. A bulk of the way of getting HDL in is actually consistent physical activity. Right? Yeah. Because it's not just strenuous, I will do weekend, won't work. It is the consistency with which you do physical activity that will slowly get your HDL to go up. Whereas your triglycerides, you can make it come down by dietary changes. Your VLDL, you can make it come down. But two things, and I'll stop there. One, when we say that eating fats will lead to heart disease, or that I have a high LDL, I'll just make a statement again. Please take it in the spirit I'm making it. It's like saying that all Muslims are terrorists, right? Obviously wrong, right? But the whole world seems to, or not the whole world, but there are pockets of the world where they kind of say this. Same way, all fats are, there are some components of fat which are harmful. Stay away from those. There are other components of fat that are actually helpful. Make sure you eat them, is one. Second, LDL, not all LDL is bad, right? There is one small dense LDL which can accelerate and increase your cardiovascular risk. But in general, there's also what's called large fluffy LDL, which does not cause a problem. So, for any of you that need help in deciphering these, best is to reach out, and we're happy to help you navigate and make the right choices.
Sure. Thanks, Vivek. So we are seriously running over time. So I'm going to ask one final question, and I'm going to tell Monica to answer it in one word, yes or no. Okay. Are artificial sweeteners good for diabetics? Is one question. And a related question, can we substitute sugar with jaggery, honey, or sugar-free tablets? Yes or no?
I can't answer this in yes or no, but I'll keep it very, very crisp. I'll keep it very, very crisp. Karthik, I can't answer it in yes or no. One quick point, 2 points. One first quick point. whether it is white sugar, brown sugar, jaggery, honey, coconut sugar, all of them convert to sugar and are bad for diabetics and are not the replacements that are right for us. When it comes to alternatives on sugar substitutes we can use, there are safe sugar substitutes they can use. You can use which are erythritol and stevia. That is what you should use. They're completely non-harmful for your body. They give you the sweetness, but pass through your system without being processed. Was that crisp enough cut?
I would just say in between there's a bunch of artificial sweeteners.
Flavors which you should avoid. Please avoid. Yes.
Aspartame and
yeah.
which are
all of that. Please avoid.
Not good.
Yeah.
So folks, I think we'll stop here on the questions. And like Vivek said, a lot of the questions that you're asking are very insightful and they need detailed discussion with us. So what I'll do is I'm going to tell Vivek to take a quick minute and tell you about AltLife's offerings, and then we'll wind up for today. And we hope that any of you who have further questions will reach out to us and set up some time with us to talk. And we're happy to answer questions in detail. Looks like one of my colleagues has put in our website's name in the chat box, so you guys can go ahead and request some time for us to speak. Right, Vivek, can you quickly
summarize? I will. There are two questions that I see which are unanswered. I'll take a yes/no shot at it. Right, one is lot of dietitians that is unpolished.
And I was really resisting doing what you are doing. Okay.
Yeah, right, unpolished rice.
Oh. Looks like Vivek is frozen. Monica, you want to take over? Oh, he's back. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my only answer to that is no, that's not the right thing. That's not good advice. And you can reach out separately. I couldn't resist, and I'm surprised that Monica did manage to resist the urge to not answer those. But that being said, what do we do? Right? Very simplistically, we put all the science together and all the solutions together that will help you reverse the diabetes and other lifestyle conditions. This includes diagnostics, this includes exercise, yoga, meditation, this includes food, etc., etc. Right? And we made it easy and convenient for people to reverse their diabetes. But that being said, with the body of knowledge and science we have, we're happy to help you. I'll leave you with two clear takeaways. One, there is a one-time diagnostic assessment. That's something you may want to look at. It's if you go to our website, it's under what we call the predict disease, just to assess truly what the state of your health, and that gets followed with a conversation with us where we give you individual advice on how to improve your health. Right? That's something to consider. Second, I think we're about to launch, maybe we have a brief version of it on the website, which is what we call a diabetes reversal kickstarter. That's a 10-day program where all of these, the best of all of these, you'll get to experience. You will see your body transform. Your medication will reduce. And I think more importantly, we also have a money back guarantee on this, right? So I think that's something to look at and something to see. That will give you the belief that your body can change and become better, right? And then there's a host of other things. And even if there's no commercial interest, I think we do want to help you, because our war is against lifestyle conditions like diabetes. And, we've got a lot of, understanding in depth of the subject, and all the, from culinary science to physical fitness and muscular science to yogic science to diagnostic science to, there are certain tests we can advise that you should do, which you're not doing, and it's not helping you figure out how bad your or good your underlying condition is. Right, and we've got an e-com store. We've got a lot of things we can do, but I think two takeaways will be: one is we want to get that assessment made and get our experts to talk to you and advise you on what's the right path. Second, if you're ready, we want to try the Diabetes Reversal Kickstarter, which is a 10-day program, and you will see and in this 10 days, we send you all the food, right? Wherever you are, and you just eat it, you'll see your body transform, right? And so these are two things to think about. But irrespective, please be inspired. We've seen a lot of clients who are no longer diabetic, who've gone from HbA1c of 12.5 to 4.5, right? And they're off medicines and doing phenomenally well. And we are happy to partner with you to enable similar journeys for you as well. Do reach out. Thank you. I know, Karthik, that's yeah.
Thanks, Vivek. So what I'm going to request the audience as a final step is I'm going to launch a poll with a quick feedback. Only 4 questions and it's anonymous. Please go ahead and let us know what you thought of the session. If you want to put in a larger comment, you're welcome to do so in the chat box. But please go ahead and respond to us on feedback. Thank you very much, folks, for attending. And like Vivek said, we hope you are inspired to follow on the examples of some of our clients and go ahead and take the first few steps towards reversing your diabetes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for
Thank
joining in
you.
today. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.